Morgan, please, this is... Hold still and relax. This will be over soon. I... I... I thought you were joking about the makeup. Of course I wasn't joking. A face like yours is invaluable in the courtroom. And you think covering me in concealer and blush and applying eyeliner will help me appeal to what demographics exactly? You know the names of all this stuff? I'm a modern man. I know the names of many things, including makeup. Is that your eyebrow gel? Yes? It's cakey. Do you want to do the rest? I think some of the jury might find that his wounds make him look rugged. And furthermore, from an aesthetic perspective, leaving some of his buttons undone will... Excuse me? You're clearly a very devoted martial artist, Sosuke. You should be proud to display your well-defined collarbones as the fruit of your efforts. Just hold still. Appearances matter in the courtroom. 95% of defendants who are ever seeing prison garb at trial are found guilty. I don't doubt your tactics work, Morgan. My tactics included getting your suit pressed. Do you want me to wrinkle it back up? I just find them unpalatable. Trying to get the jury these civilians to pity me is shameful. You're worried about honor, really? You're already a cybernetic ninja, Sosuke. Don't be a stereotype. Don't call other people stereotypes. He's right, Adonai. And he's more of a cybernetic samurai, since he's sworn himself to a wealthy landowning noble. I'm confused, Sosuke. Is it honorable how your family makes their money? Made their money? I'm not talking about morality. I'm talking about having principles. Yes, they're subjective, and yes, they can be hypocritical. But the further you stray from the common path, the more you need them. I mean, what about her? What would Sarah be like if she didn't have tennis to guide her programming? I can only imagine. But some people, believe it or not, enjoy their freedoms. Adrift in the middle of the ocean, you're free to go in whichever direction you want. But without a compass, you'll just die of exposure. If you only ever follow exactly what the compass says, you'll sail north until you freeze to death. The point is, if you have a compass, you know which direction north is. Fortunate for us all, then, that the state is a 1,000,000-megawatt North Star pointing towards complacency at all times. And the media is like the wind, and without wind, you'll get stuck in the tide. It was a nice try, Sarah. Ah, forget it. Do whatever you want with your brushes, woman. And you're pouting again, great. Sarah, just keep him talking. What? If I'm talking, how will you? Trust me, I've done more delicate work before. Sarah, small talk. Gladly, Adonai. Sosuke, do you happen to have any tattoos? Are the jury going to ask about that or something? They might. Oh. Well, yes, as a matter of fact, I do have a tattoo. A komainu on my back. Komainu, a guardian dog. You have a tattoo of a dog? It's a fierce guardian deity. Like a Labrador, or... like a great, fierce... a big dog. Perhaps you should have it change some other design, like, say, like a dragon. There's no switching. The buyer's remorse must be unbearable. There's no buyer's remorse. Lift your chin. You really think they'll feel bad for me because of some cuts and scrapes? You're not good at listening to instructions, are you? The prosecution has to get 12 strangers to agree that you killed 5 men. Each charge has to be unanimous, a perfect score. So any chip damage we can do, any doubt we can sow, we take it. And any advantage we're given, we make full use of it. But the advantage you're talking about is my face. Are you really not used to this kind of attention, Sosuke? Look, it may be true that, at times, some women have expressed, and men, no doubt. All I'm saying is that there's a difference between knowing your strengths and powdering up like this. Pretend it's war paint. Is that how you see it? No, but I'm a grown-up. Thank you for entertaining my questions last night, Sosuke. she ask you about your dimensions? The subject might have come up. She's a talkative one, isn't she? Sorry if she kept you up all night. No, she's no trouble, just curious. Reminds me of... we discussed history. Oh, well then she must have put you right to sleep. That night it was his choice of subject. So you read history, Sosuke? Here I assumed you spent all your free time frowning in the corners of rooms with your arms crossed. We talked about the Roman Empire, for your information. And criminal empires. Nothing too detailed, I hope. But Sosuke, I still don't understand. What did you mean when you said criminal organizations used to be structured differently? Only that the old ways don't fit in our new 21st century world. Old ways? Well, he's talking about race, Sarah. Race? I don't understand. Well, that's to be expected. After all, you share 98% of your components with a washing machine. That is an untrue and unflattering comparison. Maybe you do get it. Look, Sarah, names like Mafia, Gokuru, Sanhihui, they all came from different cultures, but they all refer to a kind of path. An outsider's path, and the pride that comes with living by your own set of rules. Those were the first criminal organizations. Underground guilds, lending systems, militias, secret societies. Oh sure, they were basically just big friendly charities. Then the world got smaller and people started moving around and the mafia changed. It became a way for immigrants to band together to have some kind of power in places that wouldn't give them a chance at anything remotely respectable. But the world kept getting smaller and more complex, and eventually that kind of community couldn't form, let alone survive. Why? Not enough shared experiences. Shared experiences, I see. Fancy way of saying the internet came along. Well, yes, technology negates the physical distance between people. When you spend most of your life online, you end up with more in common with people on the other side of the planet than your own neighbors. Just because of where your recommendations take you. So the immigrant experience disappeared? Fractured, more like. Cracked into a million shards with a hammer. While generational or economic experiences got cemented. The world is more diverse and varied than it's ever been in every sense. Except economically. Wealth inequality is at historical highs, as it has been every year since before I was born. To answer your question, Sarah, that's what binds the members of a criminal organization to one another, their socioeconomic status. House Sicaria is at the top, the Blue Bloods lie below us. Within each organization, wealth is concentrated among the leadership, of course, but each mafia exists in entirely different strata. I see. I've also read about an organization called the Rust being active here in the city. Are they in the poverty class, then? The Rust? I'd put them in the anarchy class. Glowing tattoos and spiked hair, chrome biceps and sharpened teeth. The Blue Bloods, for all their faults, can put on a tie and go to work, but I can't see the Rust experiencing any kind of social mobility. Careful, Sosuke. If the Rust heard you being that classist. The Rust wouldn't care about anything I said or who I stand with. They don't need any excuse to start ripping open modders and grabbing whatever they can. Things like that happen in the city? Only in the shadows, Sarah. Nowhere you'd ever find yourself. Finally run out of steam? On to the grim business, then. How'd things go with your investigation? That bad, was it? Nonsense! It was pretty bad. With what I've seen so far, there's no one else who could have killed Chopin. Even if I manage to pick apart all the evidence for the pilot's deaths, they've got a police officer who will swear on the stand that he arrested Sosuke standing over his partner's dead body. What's it going to look like in there? You've never been inside a courtroom? Never as a defendant. I'm just wondering how many cops I should expect. In the gallery, a sea of blue. Cheap intimidation tactics. Yes, but I can't fault them for that. We'd line up much the same for one of ours. You say that, and yet I don't see any other Icario around. This is a completely different scenario. And the house can't afford to appear beside a cop killer when they're being audited by the state. How understanding of you. Adonai, I think Sosuke is sad that his friends haven't shown up. Good catch. You were hired by Makoto of House Ikaria, weren't you, Aranai? Surely he would want to be in attendance. Don't be absurd. Makoto shouldn't be transported anywhere without a full security team. Besides which, he shouldn't be put through the long elevator ride to the 48th floor just for my sake. What's so bad about an elevator ride? Is he claustrophobic? No. That is, yes, but you cannot tell anyone, understand? The hell would I tell that to? Right. Look, it's illegal to stream trial proceedings under most circumstances, but I'm sure House Ikaria doesn't mind paying a fine. They'll be watching from somewhere in the courtroom. That would be a waste of the house's coin. But I suppose they might consider keeping an eye on the case's progression. As will the Blue Bloods, no doubt. Adonai, I think Sosuke's spirits have rallied. Really? How can you tell? He lifted his gaze and his eyes seemed brighter, as if... Good. I'll try and keep his spirits high. How do I do that? Think of something fun. Right. Sosuke, shall we arm wrestle? Oh. Good morning, Morgan. Good morning, Emma. You seem tired. Want to push this off till next week? Actually, that sounds... Hey. Sorry. But we'll be facing off soon enough. Why not savor the playfulness while we still can? Fair enough. Losing sleep over this case? Not really, no. Things look pretty cut and dry to me. What about you? You toss and turn all night before your big debut as a mob lawyer. Not at all, I slept like a rock. Lucky. I mean, I've been getting good rest, more or less. Just been having a lot of late nights recently. Late nights? Like, going out? No. Just late night chats. Chatting about what? God, look at all of them. Never seen so many cops in one building. They'd bring a marching band to the courtroom if they could. Theater. Right. Well, theater and trial weren't all that far apart back in ancient Greece. Would hope we'd progressed since then. You don't approve of the show of force, I take it? Is it that obvious? I'd like to say this is because of who Chopin's family is, but we both know that's not what this is really about. A cop is dead. The state wants to make it clear that that isn't tolerated. Cops volunteer to defend our laws and protect us citizens. Volunteers don't get paid. Besides, cops, courts, the state, all they can do is enforce the laws, not defend them. Guns and arms can't defend against corrosion anyway. Rot comes from the deep. So you'd rather that the death of a police officer get the same treatment as any other citizen? Suppose that's not possible. They get increasingly fewer chances to play the victim every year, and they never let the opportunity pass. No, I guess the best I could hope for is that the state makes the same show of force whenever any crime is committed. If they treated every death like the death of a cop, maybe I could have caught HBK by now. You're still on that? Of course. Shooting deaths are down, but do you know how many missing persons cases there are in this city? How many deaths get written up as mod harvesting attacks gone wrong? It's a big city, Morgan. More than enough blood running through the streets for HBK to launder their kills in. You shouldn't joke like that. Why, you don't believe me? Just last month, missing person. The report was filed by their employer when they didn't show up for work, 7 days after they had been last seen by anyone. They were just some part-time worker. No close friends, no family. They went to work and they came home, paid their bills, and they disappeared. And no one cared or even noticed until the job didn't get done and those bills went unpaid. No one noticed until they stopped buying in. Body was found a full 2 weeks later. The decay was... What happened to them? Blunt force to the back of the head. Something metallic with a sharp corner, we think. It was a roughly cubed machine part I pulled from a dumpster nearby. It fit snugly in my hand, and it caved through his skull like a shovel through snow. Kicked into the bay. Might not even have been weighed down. Just thrown away like a cheap. That's terrible. Did you find any belongings on them? No. They're probably a mugging then, right? No, there would have been other injuries from a struggle. And a thief who accidentally committed murder would be too panicked, too terrified to... You know how muggers think now? I can learn how anyone thinks. Even HBK with a robust enough profile. Well, good luck building it all by your lonesome. I'm not working on this by myself. Oh, sorry, right. Did you want to beg for mercy real quick before I begin? Now where would be the fun in that? The courtroom gallery is quite full today, isn't it? Awash in a sea of pissed-off cops. It doesn't exactly shore up one's confidence, does it? 5 counts of murder would be newsworthy any day of the week. Add in the fact that one of the bodies belongs to a cop and a crowd was to be expected. Didn't think they'd be so quiet, though. Maybe they're all just waiting for the firing pistol before they start casting their stones. Don't let it get to you, Sosuke. They're just posturing. Posturing, I understand. I've been in attendance for my share of tense negotiations. But the bloodlust in those rooms was always mutual. You don't feel any animosity towards these cops? I'm used to summoning my temper on command. I might have forgotten how to get angry for my own sake. You just worry about the jury. What about the adjutant? They cannot be intimidated by muscle, bribed with cash, or disarmed with fine tailoring. All of which makes them quite favored when it comes to prosecuting organized crime. Have you been in court many times before then? It's an eye for an eye in the world we operate in. We don't file assault charges, we just answer them. Though even that has become rare. The house is elevated. Blue bloods and rust and all the rest of the rabble. We're beyond their reach now. And when it comes to our peers, we communicate very differently. Must make being a bodyguard pretty boring. I think your work sounds very rewarding and exciting, Sosuke. Thank you. Especially the other day when you were captured and beaten by your rivals. Yes. What I was trying to hint at, Morgan, is that you should not be expecting assistance from the house. Honestly, the thought hadn't crossed my mind. Being on the winning side for once? What the hell would that even feel like? So there won't be any men in black approaching the jury during lunch and offering them paper bags of cash? No. Well, if we do really bad, we won't even make it to lunch, so... Sosuke, what are you staring at? Are you looking for the jury? No, I know they aren't here. It used to be mandated that juries be physically present for court proceedings. People felt it was important that they look the accused in the eye. To help them evaluate their character? Why bother? Most people suck at that, always have. True. Perhaps it was considered part of the punishment then. To have to look them in their eyes. A punishment for the jury or the defendant? Alright, kiddos. Chins up, shoulders out. Show's about to start. I just remembered. Do you think the audition assigned to this particular case? Obviously, it's gonna be me. Obviously. I mean, that's a gimme. Easy. How? It's 80. What are the chances? There should be at least 83 other personalities in the building's network. At least. Well, Your Honor, thank you for presiding so honorably. I do try. Try. 'Cause it's a trial. Tougher crowd than usual. And that's not counting all the grim monoliths standing tall there in the gallery. Who died? 5 people, Your Honor. Yikes, what's the damage? 2 counts of manslaughter, 2 counts of homicide in the 2nd degree, and 1 count of homicide in the 1st degree. Buddy, you're trying to set a gold split with all that? What's with the record-setting grind set? The prosecution stands ready. So shall we begin? Now let's crack open those opening statements to get this case summarized. Gladly, Your Honor. People of the court. The defendant in this case is a man named Sosuke Ikaria. He was found at the scene of the crime where 2 men were shot to death, one was stabbed in the neck, another had their skull bashed in, and a police officer was impaled through the back of a sword. Cop-killing piece of shit! Please pardon any outbursts from the gallery that your mics may inadvertently pick up. Now, I understand the scale of violence on display here today may intimidate you, but I want to stress to all of you now that your responsibility here today is neither taxing nor complex. You will hear testimony, you will be shown evidence, and all of it will point towards the truth that the defendant is the only individual who could have possibly committed these crimes. That is a simple fact, and the only one you need concern yourself with. Ooh, she's as cold as ice, but every ice age beckons a kindling, for as ashes call to cinders and embers form champions. Defense is ready, Your Honor. Emma did stick to cold logic, so if I follow her with more of the same, it'll end up falling flat. This gallery will never warm up to us, but that can work to our advantage if the jury comes to see the cops as witch hunters eager to start a pyre. It's not like masters never taught me anything. I know how to do the razzle-dazzle. My fellow citizens, you were brought here today because an act of violence took place that could only be described as unspeakable. I should know. I was there. I saw the blood on the ground, the bullet holes in the walls, felt the malevolence that radiated in the air. And I also saw where my client was held prisoner. And I knew exactly where he must have stood, because his sweat and blood had stained the tile. My client, a decorated veteran, the man you see standing next to me here, not even fully healed from his torture, was taken into police custody with lacerations, bruises, internal bleeding, broken bones. And while he was in police custody, he somehow sustained a black eye, a busted lip, a broken nose, and a boxed ear. A puzzle which I'm sure any one of the officers in the gallery today would be happy to testify about. You gonna let her say that? You want me to object during an opening statement? Much is resting on the outcome of this trial. 5 men lie dead in the morgue. One of them, a police officer, Tariq. Don't speak his name, you mob lawyer bitch! Hang him up. Hang her too. This is... Hey, we like to have fun in this courtroom, put on a good show. But that's because we're on the stage. Any more outbursts from the gallery and I'll clear the entire room. You can all watch the rest on your phones, or peek into the keyhole like a bunch of sweaty looky-loos. Counselor, let's wrap this up. Yes, Your Honor. The fact of the matter is, on that night, my client was not in any condition to kill anyone. Not 4 hardened criminals, and certainly not a trained police officer. And nothing about my client's background, his associations, or that of the victims can change that fact. So as you listen to all the evidence in this trial, with fairness and impartiality, as I know you will strive to, I only ask that you focus on the reality of this horrible crime, and not on the fiction that the people will try to weave for you. Thank you. Decorated veteran? You telling me you never earned a single commendation? Most push-ups of the day or something? Never mind. I suppose it could have gone much worse. You're too kind. I was trying to be honest. The crowd got agitated, but you maintained a level head and recovered your tempo. Adonai is a master at doing so. I've seen her make comebacks from the most nonsensical mistakes before. In martial arts, they call it ukemi, a graceful fall. That is basically correct. Well, try not to gracefully fall over when you see the first witness on the docket, Sosuke. What do you mean by that? Your name and occupation, for the record. How can that be necessary? If some blathering idiot in that courtroom doesn't already know who I am, they don't deserve. I know, but would you consider it, if only for the sake of ceremony? Ceremony is important and should be respected. Very well. I am Makoto Ikaria of House Ikaria. My occupation is that of a student. Try not to look like so smug about it when you blatantly lie. Right, of course. And your position in the Ikaria Financial Group? Is not salaried. Must I really declare it here? Hard to imagine why the noble house of Ikaria is getting audited. Sosuke, are you alright? Can he see us? You can see me, Rockford, and the adjutant. Witnesses teletestifying don't really need much else. So he's safe? Yes, Sosuke, he's safe, like he was yesterday. Probably sitting right where I left him, or standing on a box. I think the hologram's given him a boost so he can see over the stand. That's good. The boost to his height? That he's safe at home. I'm sorry that he can't see you, Sosuke. Don't be. After how horribly I've failed him, I'd like you to speak a bit about the events of August 13th. About the last time you saw the defendant, Sosuke Ikaria. I'm here today, not physically, but here nonetheless, as a courtesy. That does not mean I will flap my gums like some sort of flapping gum puppet. Permission to treat the witness as hostile incoming. Emma Rockford rigging a spoiled brat over the coals. This will almost be worth the price of admission alone. I understand. It was a traumatic experience, I'm sure. Anyone of normal upbringing would barely be able to recall a single detail, let alone the day's full events. Normal upbringing? I should probably dismiss you so you can get back to your summer studies. Summer studies? Like some common waif? Waif? That's quite the vocab pull. I didn't know they taught that in State Basic. Basic? Was I mistaken? Listen well, Madam Rockford, as I demonstrate to you exactly how misguided you are about my powers of recollection. Please do. Played like a damn fiddle. Why wasn't she mentioned during any of our trial preparations? Adonai has only won against her once. So far, every hot streak starts somewhere. Hot streak? I really am going to prison, aren't I? Where shall I start? As far back as you can. Humph. A simple task. For the past year, members of the organization most commonly referred to as the Blue Blood Mafia have been making attempts on my life. Did you steal their lunch money or something? I am the primary beneficiary of my grandfather, Daisuke Ikaria's will. In common parlance, I am the sole heir to the Ikaria Financial Group. You could buy so much lunch. The group you know as the Blue Bloods have been jealous of my family's financial foresight for decades. I am merely the most recent target of their impotent attempts to nip at our heels. And 2 days ago, on August 13th, how impotent was their attempt then? I was leaving a meeting held on the upper floors of Crane Tower. My security detail escorted me to the elevators, where we would then proceed down to their canopy access floors. This was all planned out in advance by my head of security, Sosuke Ikaria. But the elevator became stuck with unnatural timing. When Sosuke pried the doors open, we saw that we were stuck between the 62nd and 61st floors. Pried open with a tool. Leading the witness, Your Honor? He didn't need a tool to open the doors. His bare hands were more than sufficient. Oh, Sosuke out here, kid. We submit into evidence the defendant's Akita Type 2 military-grade spinal mod, designed to enhance strength, endurance, and reflexes for high-intensity combat scenarios. Yes, sir, it is so admitted. What happened next? The decision was made that we would crawl out onto the 61st floor and head for the service elevators. But when Sosuke and I exited, the elevator started up. It was a trap. We had been cut off from the rest of my detail. You were isolated and defenseless. That must have been... Ha! Hardly defenseless. You really think my personal head of security wouldn't be armed? He had Yoru. Don't tell me. You named your sword? All great swords have names. Thank you, Sarah. Very well put. Let the record show that the witness has identified Exhibit B3 as it belonged to the defendant. This sword was recovered by the police in a known blue blood den in the lower wards. Found impaled into the body of Tariq Chopin. And forensics has shown that the only fingerprints on it are those of the defendant. There's still time for you to disown it, Sosuke. You understand nothing about a swordsman's heart, Adonai. Once again, it is your paralegal that has the right of it. Perhaps she should be leading my defense. If this somehow turns into a fencing competition, I'll gladly defer to you two. So you, Sosuke, and Yoru were on the 61st floor together. What happened next? When we arrived at the service elevators, Sosuke called them, and then they made a chime. And I didn't clearly see much of what happened next, to tell the truth. Figures emerged from around the corners. They were aiming weapons at me. A red dot showed on my chest. And then Sosuke was there, and a needle was sticking out of his arm. Yoru glinted. Sosuke had drawn it in the blink of an eye. Something glanced off of it and dropped to the floor. I saw a syringe at my feet. Yoru's sheath was thrust into my arms, pushing me back into the elevator, and I landed on my rear. That's clearly a key piece of testimony. Let's play it back 5 times. What matters is that he pushed me back into the elevator with Yoru's sheath. How I landed is irrelevant and should be stricken from all public records. The only other thing I saw was Sosuke's back. He slammed his hand against the elevator's control panel, and then the doors shut. That's the last time you saw the defendant? The decision was made that I should get on a VTOL as soon as possible, but much of my detail stayed behind to assess what had happened. Yes, they were very helpful to building security in recovering Exhibit 5C, this hypodermic needle gun. What kind of bonehead would leave evidence like that behind? A bonehead in a rush, perhaps, Your Honor. It does appear to have exhausted its gas canister, so it may have outlived its usefulness. I take it that this weapon is a match for the projectile needles found in the room where my client was restrained? Correct. Others exactly like them were recovered from the scene of the ambush as well. Makoto, did you see the faces of the men who attacked you? Ha! All too clearly. I can tell you every detail of their rough-shod countenances. Ah! That sounds like a good bit of testimony. Hit it! A pineapple head-like man in a raincoat-clad hooligan came at us first. They aimed at me, but Sosuke got between us and blocked every shot. With Yoru, he could have closed the distance, but then a dark-eyed scoundrel approached from the right, and a man with a ridiculous pompadour took advantage of that distraction. I'll never forget the faces of those cowards. They tried to kill me. So whatever happened to them afterwards, I'm sure they deserved it. Makoto's putting his talents for hyperbole on full display. I'll have to fact-check his description in order to get the ball rolling. They couldn't have been trying to kill the witness, not with non-lethal projectiles. They fired a lot of them. The witness doesn't weigh that much. Don't try it. This attack was clearly planned with the intent of capturing Makoto alive. Meaning what? That 4 of this case's victims were actually soft-hearted pacifists? There's nothing soft-hearted about what they did to my client after capturing him. Using tools they clearly originally planned to use on the witness. So they're sadists? I'm getting confused here. So is the defense, Your Honor. What matters is that the witness has identified the defendant's captors as the 4 blue blood victims that he is accused of murdering. Makoto did establish that much, but something about this attack still bothers me. Emma put Makoto on the stand specifically to identify the victims. Is it possible that the men who attacked them weren't Kriegsfond? I don't disagree, Your Honor. The men who attacked Makoto and took Sosuke captive are the same ones who ended up dead that night. But 2 questions do occur to me. Why were you safe on that service elevator if Sosuke surely collapsed the very moment it shut? Wouldn't these men have pursued you by any means necessary? That is... I can answer that, Your Honor. When the police inspected the scene, they found that the control panel for calling that elevator on the 61st floor was broken. Smashed, in fact. The attackers would have had to manually pry open the doors to even attempt to chase after Makoto. And that would take remarkable, modded strength. Did you mash the button that forcefully, Sosuke? I may have used more force than necessary. I wasn't exactly trying to hold myself back at the time. Yet the controls hard enough to break them. So the Blue Bloods couldn't pursue you further, and instead elected to take Sosuke captive. A Sosuke in the hand is better than a Makoto in the bush. The head of Makoto's security would surely have made for an invaluable source of information for planning future attacks, were he made to talk. Are you denying that? No, but I would like to ask the witness one other question. Why did you get off the elevator in the first place? What are you? Hey, what I mentioned in the lobby earlier, that's... The mics might not be picking up on it for you, but for him standing, I can't help but overhear my client groaning about how badly he failed you. That's not evidence or testimony, and so should be stricken from the record. But we get the idea. So is bailing out early the defendant's big brain idea? As head of my personal security detail, such a decision is ultimately his to make. However, that decision may have been influenced by his knowledge of the fact that I am not especially comfortable in enclosed spaces. The hell are you doing? Are you trying to humiliate him? In part. I'm also trying to insult you. Had we simply waited, we would have remained safe, but I was not comfortable and felt very warm. So it was not a tactical failure on Sosuke's part per se, just an error of judgment. Counselor Morgan. What's up? You can disconnect the call. Ask me another question. Ask me about how bravely Sosuke defended me. So that's your angle. We can't all be as naturally gifted as extracting valuable testimony out of spoiled brats as Emma. But I can follow her example, insult their pride, and these Ikaria snap back, as reliable as any knee-jerk reaction. And in Makoto's case, with infinitely less resistance than if I had simply asked him to testify. It's usually the lawyers who do the asking and the witnesses who do the answering. This is not very realistic. We ask that the witness testify for the court in more detail about exactly how valiantly Sosuke fought off the attackers. And I guess the people don't object? Even though it seems super extra? No, the people don't object, Your Honor. Emma's playing passively. Either I'm on to something here or I'm walking into a trap. Screw it, all in on the former. Sosuke was outnumbered from the beginning and protecting me the whole time. It didn't matter that we were ambushed or that the Blue Bloods had projectiles. Sosuke took up Yoru in both hands and swatted their needles out of the air like a graceful swatter. He fought off 4 attackers and without sustaining a single injury. Mock him if you dare for being captured, but that's not a failure, not by any general's definition of the word. Hearing Makoto describe Sosuke's heroism, it's almost more impressive the second time. He definitely followed out of care for himself, and there's evidence to show it. Unscathed was the last thing anyone would call my client after the events of that day. One look at his medical data from when he was arrested will tell you that much. What are you getting at, Counselor? The defendant's injuries were sustained at the Blue Blood's den, not at Crane Tower. The police didn't even find 1 drop of blood anywhere near that surface elevator. Well, that is a miracle. A bloodless ambush. But the fact that no blood was found makes it all the more painfully obvious what actually happened to that elevator panel. The elevator panel? Ugh. My client broke half the bones in his left hand, smashing it up. Did you really? I might have. There was a lot of adrenaline at the time. Did you not form a proper fist? Was your wrist not in alignment with your forearm? As I said, Sarah, there was a lot of adrenaline. Do you deny that his medical record clearly shows his left hand was broken? Your Honor, what does it matter that the defendant broke his left hand closing that elevator? It changes nothing about the witness's testimony. True, Sosuke's hand getting injured doesn't change what we've learned from this witness. But it does change the evidence you had him identify for the court. The katana? Yoru. Yoru. Its name is Yoru. Get it. Did you have a point to make, Counselor? There's something odd about the katana that's been entered into evidence. Something that makes no sense, given what we've learned about the outcome of this ambush. Namely, the swords... Namely, the fingerprints that were found on the sword's handle. Fingerprints belonging to Sosuke's right hand. You're contradicting yourself, Counselor. We've already discussed how it was your client's left hand that he broke closing off the elevator. There's nothing contradictory about him using his right arm to wield the blade. It can be like this because Sosuke has 2 hands. The people are correct. The sword found at the scene of the crime has my client's right fingerprints on the handle. Despite the fact that this witness just testified that Sosuke was swinging it with both hands. Like a graceful swatter, specifically. Oh, yeah, he did say that. So did the little tyke misremember? It was a chaotic situation where he feared for his life. The court should hardly expect him to have kept track of such an inconsequential detail. Have you already forgotten my magnanimous powers of recollection? Her tactics from earlier backfired. I'll have you know I can recite all my subordinates' birthdays down to the hour. Write them all down so I can calculate their moon signs later. It doesn't matter whether the witness is mistaken about Sosuke's grip, Your Honor. Because we have a much bigger issue to address. Why this sword has only my client's fingerprints on it. Makoto testifies that Sosuke wielded this katana in his defense. An act of bravery that ended with my client face down on the floor of Crane Tower. He later woke up, held captive, in the lower wards. I'll state the obvious here and say that while he was unconscious, he was moved. And so the sword we have on the record must have also been handled by... Our poor victim, Creek, of course. What do you mean? Sosuke was knocked unconscious at Crane Tower. That means that someone else must have brought his sword down to the lower wards. And the only people who had the opportunity to do so would have been his captors. You mean his victims? Withdrawn. The defense is forgetting a fairly simple fact, Your Honor. There's more than one way to hold a sword. Oh, were? In case the defense needs it clarified, Creek could have simply held the sword by its scabbard. That's not possible, Your Honor. Makoto has already testified that Sosuke left the sword scabbard with him when he thrust him back into the elevator. Yoru's sheath was thrust into my arms, pushing me back into the elevator, and I landed on my rear. I see. And since the cursed sword can't be resheathed until it's tasted blood. Yes, Your Honor, very well said. We would have found the scabbard at the Blue Blood's den if Creek or his men had taken it with them. Instead, I imagine Makoto took it home. You think he took key evidence from his own assault and kept it from the police? Of course I did. As if I would trust officers of the law to properly handle a family heirloom as precious as Yoru's sheath. Impressive insight, Adonai. But what does this actually mean? Is there some mistake with how the evidence was handled? There's no mistakes here. This was all done with intention. The intention to frame my client. By putting his fingerprints onto that sword after the real culprit had already handled it. What a load of bullshit. And the crowd goes wild. Though it does make a certain kind of sense. Because it's the truth. I did wipe that katana's handle down after removing it from Trey's throat. Sosuke just happened to be foolish enough to pick it up himself afterwards. It's frustrating, having to keep all my best cards up my sleeve this time around. But the look on Emma's face when I do get to toss them out is... The people are more than ready to counter, if it pleases the court. Oh. The defense has made an admirable effort to barrel ahead with this theory. Admirable, but predictable. With a foundation this week, charging ahead and hoping the court won't notice is the only option. Let us speak of the facts. This Creek character led a targeted ambush on the heir to House Ikaria, knowing he'd be guarded by a full security team. The Blue Bloods successfully sabotaged and intercepted Makoto's elevator at the precise floor they wanted, meaning they knew exactly where he'd be and when. And they brought with them drugs capable of disabling a veteran with military-grade mods. Planning and attention to detail may be foreign concepts to the defense, but they should at least be able to recognize them. So is the defense seriously suggesting that after all that preparation, Creek and Pod wouldn't bother to wear gloves? I'm glad you asked so nicely. We don't need to speculate about whether they wore gloves or not when we have Creek's fingerprints on a weapon recovered from the crime scene. That is... a pretty good point, actually. Guess these guys were sloppier than we thought. Those blackguards were barefaced when they attacked us. Idiots. As if there wouldn't be repercussions to their actions. The least they could have done was disguise themselves. Strike that from the record, Your Honor. Along with any future comment that suggests that Ikaria would want revenge against these victims. He was only speaking a plain truth. Creek was their leader, correct? If even Creek wasn't wearing gloves, it's hard to imagine that none of them got their prints onto Yoru. Unless the sword was indeed wiped down at some point afterwards. Like right around the time the true culprit was looking for Sosuke to take the fall. It's a spicy theory. It's just that, Your Honor, a theory. A far-fetched, unstable theory that stacks positions on top of each other. Like a flapjack chef, substituting quantity for quality. I'll rephrase. This inconsistency is easily answered without jumping through the defense's absurdly arranged hoops. That's a little better. We already know that the Blue Bloods had successfully taken down the Ikaria's head of security. And we already know that they went out of their way to take the defendant captive despite him not being their original target. Furthermore, as the defense is belabored, we know that they decided to take a useless piece of steel with them from the scene of their crime. Useless? If we ask why, The answer is obvious, because orcas are superstitious and immature. They wanted a trophy, and what is there to do with a trophy, other than polish it? And the cloth from Creek's desk. I knew she flagged it in the arts for some reason, but she thought this many steps ahead? The defense is correct. The sword was wiped down before Sosuke took it up as a murder weapon. By the very same victims he'd go on to claim with it. That is a completely logical explanation, damn it. How do we respond to that, Adonai? We don't. I can't. It makes perfect sense. So, does that mean that she's described what actually happened? Not at all. I wiped off the sword myself because my prints were on it. Same as I wiped my prints off of every other. Right. I can't fault with Emma's conclusion. I need to find fault with the logic that led her there. I see. And how do you do that? By adjusting my aim. As the people say, Your Honor, no one's fingerprints but my client's are on the murder weapon. That only makes sense if he's guilty or being framed. And there's no evidence to suggest that he's been framed, because his captors had valid reasons for wiping off the sword. That's true. They did have good reason to wipe off the sword. But that's not the murder weapon I'm referring to. This gun is the murder weapon I'm referring to. What? The police are confident that this Mag US is the gun that was used to kill Tanks and Creek. And your client was arrested with it on his person, and it has your client's prints on it. But it was owned by Tanks. The record showed that Sosuke's were the only fingerprints on that doohickey. So that means that this Tanks guy never laid a finger on his own gun? It's entirely possible that Tanks simply liked to polish his gun too. Phrasing. So he was polishing it right up until the moment his captive grabbed it and used it against him? Or phrasing. Was it before or after his internal bleeding that my client took the gun off Tanks without him even laying a finger on it first? Before or after being tortured that he got the gun with no struggle? He could have wrestled over the gun while it was out of reach. Tanks had no injuries besides the hole in his chest. How did he get into a struggle and not get so much as a scratch? The likelihood of that scenario would seem to come down to the order in which each individual died, no? Yes, Your Honor. Then perhaps we ought to hear some more detailed testimony about that. Of course. The defense has no more questions for this witness, Your Honor. We don't object. Hold on. What are you saying? Okie dokie then. Closing the connection. I said, wait. Is Sosuke... Makoto seemed to be in good spirits, wouldn't you say? Yeah, he was his usual irreproachable self. So how can you find something about that to be depressed over? I'm ashamed that he testified at all. His appearance here runs the risk of sullying the house's visage with my mistakes. Well, he couldn't exactly slip the subpoena by claiming he had homework to do. You of all people should understand the House of Karia doesn't have to appear in court if it truly doesn't want to. A fine levied on your accounts is always preferable to a smudge staining your reputation. But he did testify. Yes, and he no doubt went directly against one or more family elders to do so. He should not be incurring debts for my sake. So he put himself at a disadvantage for you. Do you think Makoto would want you to apologize? Or do you think he'd want you to thank him? He's young. He doesn't know what he wants yet.